Hello and welcome to the Lost Rewatch. We're now into season 3. I'm joined by Bill and Caleb. A Tale of Two Cities and the Glass Ballerina. I know Caleb really wanted to do this because he's a big Juliet fan.
Yes, for sure.
I don't know. Most people aren't.
Do what?
I don't think there's a lot of people who aren't Juliet fans. I mean, I don't know. People, is there a group out there that hates her, that disliked her?
Yeah, I mean, every now and then you'll come across people who are like, "Well, I never trusted her from the beginning," and things like kind of grouping her into all the others and the madness and all the bad things that they did. And you'll see that sometimes, but it's hard now that it's 10 years ago that happened. I don't really look up a Lost hashtag to see people's current views for them watching it for the first time. But
yeah, there was a brief period where I was a little leery. It was when she went back to the beach with Jack and
that's right,
doing some sly, tricky things. I was like, oh, she's bad.
She can't be trusted. Yeah,
that was just a brief period though. She recovered.
Well, even these first 2 episodes, we don't know. We know there's friction between her and Ben.
It's so weird to me. It's almost like, I don't know, fate or whatever you want to call it. But as soon as I saw this episode, she was like instantly my favorite character. I connected with her, from the first scene. She's waking up and just trying to get through the day. Like, I really related to a lot of stuff she was going through at the time. And I don't know. And then at the end of the episode, when she says, it doesn't matter who we were, it only matters who we are. That night when I started watching Lost from season 3, starting live. I had seen the first 2 seasons prior to that. But that night I went on my MySpace page and put it in my bio, that quote. And it was my quote. I think it's still there. I'm sure it's still there. But it was my high school yearbook quote. It really meant a lot to me. And I think this episode, it's one of my top favorite episodes of the whole series. I think it's just really well done.
Your high school yearbook quote. So you must be young.
Well, I mean,
compared maybe to maybe.
I'm probably the youngest in this chat, but
mine was actually a quote from Styx. It's a grand illusion. That was my senior year of high school, and my mother was pissed off at me for that. But
I think I have something from Elvis. I don't know.
Oh wow, yeah. I'll be 31 this year. So it would have aired in 2007,
2006 or 7.
And I graduated in 08.
Okay.
So it was, I held on to that quote I still do. So it had aired like a year prior, but yeah.
Yeah, Jack, we got socks older than Caleb, so that's
I know. I can handle it now. I'm used to being old now, but what I like about this episode, it did a great job of setting up her character.
I mean,
now we're to season 3. We have characters we love, characters we don't like, and they added Ben the following season, but we didn't really know how much he was going to be involved. And when they add Juliet. Again, with the first couple episodes, I guess we really don't know if she's going to be. I guess we moved probably from spoilers that she was going to be full time, but they did a fantastic job of putting her in and making her an important character right away.
Yeah, she was like one of the lead. I thought she was in charge. She was at least second or third in command. It seemed. I mean,
little did we know.
The next episode, probably how she took charge out there with the workers. Telling them what to do, pointing them around. So. She seemed to be up high in the hierarchy there.
We knew she wasn't a cook.
No.
I think the addition of her character is very similar to Desmond. They're both introduced with, great music, and that seemed to be like the theme there for a while. And they really integrated his character and her character both really well. So that worked out great.
Also, we didn't really, I remember when this aired, you didn't know what was going on because we'd never seen Otherville or whatever New Otherton, whatever people call it. And it wasn't until we saw Ethan, and you go, Ethan. And then you see Ben, then you see Goodwin, like, and then of course the plane crashes, and you go,
yeah, amazing.
So it was what, 2 or 3 minutes before we even find out what's going on. And what I like too is a lot of people treat Ben as a god. You know, the Adam guy was, Ben's not here. Ben, this is not Ben's book, and Juliet. I don't care if Ben wants to read the book. I don't care. So they're right away they're letting us know, okay, she doesn't treat Ben like the other people do.
Yeah. And it's really weird because there's so much. So I have a degree in film and digital media production and English, and I'm a big mental health advocate, and I've written a book about it, and I know y'all have my book and all that. But Bill actually went to one of my speaking engagements when I was in New York. But so it had been a minute since I'd seen this episode, I guess since 2017. I did a rewatch back then. And I was looking at it more of a lens of from mental illness. And like when it first shows her, her eye, and then she's really fighting back tears, and then manages to, it seems like she turns on her favorite song. She, does this thing in the mirror, and it's almost like, that this is her routine. Like she does this every single day. They did a really good job of showing like this is her life, and then she burns her hand on her muffin. Like things aren't going well for her, obviously. And I was like, wow, she's super depressed. Like for sure. I mean, and then when you find out like she's being basically kidnapped and forced to be there, it just makes it all, more obvious. But if you notice during the book club scene, she's just tuned out, just freaking tuned out, not even paying any attention until the guy says, Ben wouldn't read this in the bathroom. And then she turns her head, and it's like, that's her trigger word right there, Ben. And she snaps out of it. And it's like, what about Ben? Let me tell you about Ben, And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like a perfect example of, she's probably thinking, how do I get off this island?
Yeah, and she mentioned,
how do I get off?
Have free will anymore? She says free will. So.
Exactly, yeah. And then the plane crashes, and
well, Carol in the chat says, I love that scene. This is my favorite book, and the older lady is so proud of her for speaking up. So it was well shot because she does. You can see the lady's like going, yeah.
She's like, I'm not a fan of Ben either, and we never see her. We never see her again.
No. Well, Ben probably had her do something crazy.
Yeah. So anyway,
but I do like how we see though where Ben goes. He doesn't hesitate. There's no hesitation. He goes, Goodwin. You see where it landed? You can get there in an hour. If you run, you can get there in an hour. And he told Ethan, okay, you're gonna be part of the plane. You're gonna be this and that, and I want a list within 3 to 5 days. I mean, there was no hesitation. It's almost like he knew the plane was going to crash because he knew exactly. Not that he did, but it's like he knew. Ben's a sharp guy,
right?
I mean, we may disagree with him, but he's very smart.
He knew that. I don't know. Let's talk about, did he know about what was going on in the hatch and the numbers, what that meant, what would happen if the numbers weren't punched in? He seemed to think that nothing would happen at some point. At least he busted John Locke's chops about that.
Well, going back to that, he said he didn't punch in the numbers.
Right.
And that got Locke going,
crazy.
I was doing this. And he just, for whatever reason, enjoyed messing with John Locke, getting in his head and just causing havoc over there.
Yeah.
But but the final scene of not Tell Two Cities, Live Together, Die Alone, where it's going, this guy's turning purple and he's every good time. He seemed to know what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the one. Everyone else is covering. He's covering his ears, but he's just like going, they didn't push the numbers.
Yep. Exactly.
So I guess he did.
What would happen? So
right.
I'm not sure. I don't know about that one.
It's just the way they shot it. It just seemed like Ben knew they didn't put, like he would know, he knew what would happen if they didn't push the numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a reach too, because plane crash and survivors from something like that would be minuscule odds. So,
because when Ben says there's bound to be survivors, I'm like going, how?
Lucky them, yeah.
How is that even possible?
Yeah,
well, I guess Ben
he
knows the island.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that it heals, and he knows
that's a good point.
He knows people are brought there kind of for a reason, I guess, or it's kind of. I think that Ben wants to be in control so bad that he's thought of every single scenario possible. And okay, like if a boat arrives or if an airplane, lands, if somebody else comes to the island that I don't know of, I think that he has already. That's why he was like, okay, you go there, because he'd already thought about it. He already had a plan in place, and they have the Dharma station. That Mikhail, is that his name? Mikhail Patchy.
Communication.
Yeah. Mikhail.
Patchy.
Yeah, he has the communications, Dharma station under control. So and then of course Richard. So unbeknownst to us, they have access to the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously a vast organization of others, I guess. So I'm sure he wanted to know exactly who was on the plane, and then of course they get all the details.
Juliet runs through Jack's file towards the middle there, about the Red Sox, and so they
right.
and that was eye opening to me as I was watching too. I'm going, man, they got what's going on? Where'd they get this information? But they had everything.
Well, he did say they had contact with the outside world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was trying. I think he was this whole thing about where Sawyer and Kate are kind of together, not together, was to get them together to get Jack a reason to do the surgery and then leave the island.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm.
To get Jack to just leave, because the only thing maybe keeping him there, they thought, was Kate. So
now I did notice watching the episode again that they were. Blood was drawn from
right.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know if testing for what purposes. I would imagine Kate to see if fertility issues, but I think Jack also had a puncture.
Yeah, I think all three did, didn't he? Sawyer had one too, didn't he?
Okay, maybe.
Well, I'm sure if it was in their file already, they probably wanted to determine their blood type, or if any of them had any type of like cancer or disease, like since Ben was, and because Ben's probably like, I've been marked and I shouldn't, this famous scene of Juliet saying, "Nobody's supposed to have cancer on this island. Why do you?"
Right?
And
which never made sense.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Him having cancer never was always.
Well, I assumed that it was like a Jacob thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh! Now I'm confused. Yeah, because she's like, if Jacob can cure cancer, Ben, then why do you have it? That's what she says.
Right. But the same thing goes for Jack too with his appendix. So you can correlate the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the island heals who it wants to.
It chooses who it wants
to. And probably Ben was like, okay, if Jack has cancer, then I don't want him to operate on me because he's not, worthy of being healed quickly or whatever. So. Yeah. I don't know.
It was definitely a game going on. I don't know if we want to touch on the backstory, the flashback. We got Jack who's stalking Sarah. He just can't obviously Jack can never let go. And his actions, as watching this rewatch, I was like, what? Jack kind of led to his dad's death because his dad was 50 days sober.
Right. Yeah.
And after Jack has that blowout with him, they have a fight and he goes back to drinking.
Yep.
And so maybe if he doesn't drink, maybe he never goes to Australia. I mean, it's a lot of it's on Christian. You can't just blame it all on Jack. But
he pushed him to it though. You got to absolutely. You're absolutely right. I mean, you pushed him to that brink.
Because I never really thought about it. So I said, oh, you know what? Jack is partially responsible. But again, his dad's Sarah's calling his dad. And of course, his dad just says, "Let it go, Jack. Just let it go." Instead of sitting him down, saying, "Okay, this is what's going on. This is who she's with."
Right. I thought that was a funny moment. A little funny. I mean, what Jack's running down the numbers and he dials a number and then Christian's phone rings.
Phone rings.
Yeah. Word.
I mean, you get it, but it's just like, I know it's for the show, but in real life, I would think, look, this is what's really going on.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
But that's not that's not the relationship they have either. They don't have a very buddy relationship. You know, you would think a typical father-son relationship.
Not at all.
But it's funny how that turn. Let It Go goes from that episode all the way to the final episode.
It's just who Jack is. He just can't let things go. But
if you notice, Juliet says it to him as well when he first wakes up and he's pulling on the chains, and she's like, "Let it go." And I'm like, once again, everybody's telling Jack to like let it go, and then of course,
even the speaker, the intercom, didn't it say "Let it go, Jack"? It was Christian's voice. Now, was that just Jack
hallucinating
because he had those powerful drugs in him? Because remember, she says that. So was that real, or was that the drug? I mean, I know we'll never get the answer.
Made a point to saying the intercom hasn't worked in years.
Right.
I believe Juliet.
Juliet,
she's a doctor. She said you haven't eaten. He was being stubborn. She called him stubborn. Jack is stubborn, and
Well, in this case, I don't blame Jack for being. You got me locked up in this room.
Yeah.
You've drugged me. You've kidnapped me. You've taken me against my will, and so it's like I get Jack being a little stubborn, and it's hard to fault any of them on that one.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally see Carl.
Yeah.
We'll have a bigger role later on.
Mm-hmm.
Who has one of the funnier death scenes in the history of Lost, as far as I'm concerned. It's one where he's sitting there, and the water bottle gets shot, and they look at it. Instead of ducking, and the next shot, he's dead.
Yeah.
I always laugh at that scene.
That's a rough few episodes. You lose a lot of people there.
Yeah. But is this episode where they escape, or is it the next one? Where
I think Carl opens the lock for Sawyer to run out. Right?
Yeah.
He tells Sawyer to run, but Juliet tases him.
Yeah, so it's their first meeting, and she tases him.
Love at first sight.
But she's forced to do all this. We have to remember.
Right, but at the time, it seemed like I said before, she's like up there in the hierarchy, and she's security. She's this,
Well, if you think about
it, looked like at that point, like she was being forced.
Next season, there's a continuation of that scene of when the plane crashes, and she walks away from Ben, and he calls back after her, and he's like, "Let me show you something." And he takes her to Patchy's station that we were talking about earlier that communicate, and then he shows her her sister and all that, and then he's like, maybe there's a pregnant woman on the island or whatever. So I think after that, with that promise of being able to leave the island, being able to, as soon as the plane crashed, that's the first day that we assume she's seen her sister alive. All she's gone on is based off Ben, and she's not been able to trust him. So when they pull up that video, the live video of them being recorded in the park, then I think that she was like, okay, if I do what he wants, I can finally leave. Which is what she tells Jack later in like a few episodes. But but
as of now, we don't really trust. I mean, I remember not trusting her. Like I said earlier. I mean, she's tasing Sawyer. We like. I mean, you can hate her a lot, dislike Sawyer, but I kind of like Sawyer. I kind of feel bad for him. But
and we missed one of the best lines, probably the top 10 lines of the series, when Ben says, "I guess I'm out of the book club." So.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Ben doesn't like burnt muffins. Who likes burnt muffins? But there's a timer, Juliet. Use the time. You're a smart person. Use the timer.
She's going through so much psychological warfare right now. I mean, she's literally. I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think mentally, she is probably the person who. Not here.
It's me. It's the people I told you about. They're leaf blowing the backyard because.
Of course.
So yeah, so I apologize, people listening and stuff like that.
At like 8 o'clock at night.
Yes, it's 9 o'clock. So
yeah, 9 o'clock your time. Yeah, what are they doing? Go to bed.
This stuff's been blowing off. I mean, our neighbors probably hate us because the stuff's been blowing all over the place. But what can I do? I'm just a customer. Anyway, go ahead.
What was I saying?
Juliet's being stressed out and.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about how I think out of most of the characters, she's experienced more kind of psychological warfare and mental distress than most. But yeah. Okay, so he muted it, so we can talk, Bill. I guess.
There we go.
Anyways, I know other people, obviously they all have tragic backstories, but from a lot of them was more like Locke lost his kidney, and obviously there's going to be mental distress with that, and everything like that. But I think people don't realize, take into account, she's been on the island 3 years. 3 years that she.
What does isolation like that do to anybody? I mean,
exactly. And then to be manipulated the way she was, and basically stuck there with no way to get home. Every day she's running through any scenario to get off the island, and now she thinks has her chance, and if she has to hold these people prisoner for Ben just a little longer so Jack will perform surgery on Ben, then she's going to do it.
Yeah.
And when they recruited her, they weren't honest with her. Right?
Oh,
if I remember correctly, they basically flat out lied to her.
Yeah, and then cut her off from all of her family.
Yeah,
which was her sister and nephew. So, and then all her patients during those 3 years, she was kidnapped. She was forced to, do all this, and then all these, all the mothers and the babies kept dying every time. So I forget how many patients she lost too, but so yeah, she's been through a lot. I'm here to just vouch for Juliet, I guess.
Well, Gail in the chat says all of Juliet's backstories were my favorite.
Who said that?
Gail said that in the chat.
Awesome.
So again, you can't hate. You can't hate.
I see the comments now. Okay.
Oh, the guy's coming back. Keep talking, guys.
Okay, Bill.
So then you got more of the backstory.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean. So it looks like Sarah, she really doesn't want, she wants this divorce to go quick. She wants nothing, no reconciliation at all.
With Jack's flashback.
Yeah.
You're wondering, is he still in love with her, and is he fighting for that, or is he obsessed over who else has her?
Right.
Because he makes a mention of, I want to know who the man is that's with my wife. And it's like, are you wanting her because you're still in love, or are you you need to know because you're kind of jealous, I guess, at that point.
Yeah. And that's what it seemed like. I mean, it seemed like obsession, like really off the wall.
Yeah.
So,
well, he definitely was jealous.
Right.
But it's not really a trait we see. I guess we've seen jealousy on the island between, Jack kind of has a thing for Kate, and he gets a little jealous sometimes of Sawyer. But not this kind of stalking where he's just
not to this extent.
Obsessed, where he's just where he just can't handle what's going on. But almost in the beginning, because didn't Jack and Juliet have a thing at first? Didn't they? It was Jack and Juliet were.
Oh yeah. He brought her back to the camp, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, and he was
because they do have good chemistry.
Yeah, he was like, "I'll protect you," and then they kiss, but Juliet knew that the kiss was for Kate, not her.
Right.
That's one thing too. Jack was protecting her. What did Jack do for his ex-wife? He fixed her. Did he feel like she owed him everything for that, or maybe that's what his obsession was about?
He did well. The whole thing he can't let go. I mean, that's how many times we hear it during this episode, but he just can't let go, and it's a hard thing.
Oh, absolutely.
But did he marry her in the beginning because he loved her, or because he felt like he had to?
Right.
I think that's why Juliet really wanted to leave, was that she knew that Jack deep down didn't really love her,
Mm-hmm.
He cared about her,
Right.
but he didn't. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is my soulmate. This is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she knew it,
Right.
and she
Oh,
did.
yeah.
She said, okay, this is the best thing for us. I think she loved him.
I think
But
she
I think
was
at the end,
like,
she said,
oh,
"Look, I won't be happy unless I'm, this is never going to work. We're never going to be happy."
Right.
are you talking about Sarah or Juliet?
I'm talking about Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was
Sarah.
thinking about.
Sorry.
No, shocker. I was thinking about Juliet. I was thinking that
Mhm.
she kind of probably fell more for him during those few weeks or few months because she kind of saw him as her savior,
Right.
as
That's a
her
good
way
point.
off the island. And he didn't really see her that way. But going back to Sarah, you bring up a good point that did he really love her from the get-go, or was this just such a fantasy story of like, this is such a beautiful story, we have to end up with each other? Did they do it out of obligation? I saved you and then we ended up falling in love, or did they? And then, I mean, maybe they did love each other, but then he got obsessed with fixing every patient, and the ones that he couldn't save, it wasn't enough for him. It never was.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I think at the end when Sarah says, look at the bright side, you have something to fix, I was like, oh gosh. Yeah, that one stung a bit.
Mm-hmm.
That was cold.
It was cold, but it was true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it really was.
I mean, she just wanted him. And again, it's hard when you have a relationship and how their relationship started. I mean, he saved her life. Well,
Mm-hmm.
saved her life. She was able to walk again and all this different stuff. So it just was. But again, Jack it was like when he showed up without the lawyer. Where's your lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I fired him. I let him go.
Mm-hmm.
We can work this out. We can.
He's gonna fix it right there. He was gonna, that's what he does. I'm gonna fix
No, we can't, Jack. We can't fix this. I'm done. I'm done. And he just didn't want to hear it. And like his Christian, was saying that because he knew that because he's talked with Sarah, obviously, and he knew that they were done. It wasn't going to work.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a sad ending.
Yeah.
It's a great story to start off with.
Right.
It's
And
like a
she
fairy tale story.
Yeah, she bails him out of jail, and then later, she's still his emergency contact 3 years later, remember? And well, I guess it'll be the finale of this season 3. But it's always great to see what's her name, the actress, Julie Bowen, because she's great on Modern Family too. But as far as their story goes, it was sad. So
Mm-hmm.
It was the way it was always going to end up.
mhm.
Carol in the chat says Juliet's backstory has really taught us a lot we didn't know about the circumstances of the others.
Yes, that's why a lot of people consider this kind of a little bit Juliet flashback episode, or an entirely Juliet episode, and obviously it follows the Jack format with a typical flashback, but we get that glimpse of Juliet, and then her other flashbacks throughout the season give you a whole lot of detail. So I agree with that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you brought up earlier about how did Jack really is he the cause of Christian falling off the wagon, or whatever you want to say? And I think that kind of doing something and you not really realizing that it's affecting somebody else,
right,
is totally present in the next episode with Sun and Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Because like what she does affects what he does, which ultimately affects her father, and ultimately affects their marriage, which ends up the reason why it all falls apart. So I mean, there's a lot of you see, which is what's so great about the show, is that no decision is ever black and white, and all decisions have consequences that aren't only for just you, but for the people that are also in your life, because it affects them.
Right.
True. There's like, we go back to the season 1 of Lost. We're all blaming Jen for the problems in their marriage, and you start as season 2 comes around, and now of course season 3, we go, Okay, it wasn't just all Jin. A lot of it was Sun. I mean, there's always two sides to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but do you guys want to move on to the Glass Ballerina? Do you have any more comments on?
Sorry, I'm jumping around like crazy.
No, that's fine. That's fine because they're both kind of tied in together. So
yep, I'm good.
I will look at my notes.
What you guys think of the Tale of Two Cities?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it for the opening scene. I mean, it rivals the Hatch from season 2. I mean, when the camera panned back and you see New Otherton there with the plane smoking in the background. I mean, just an amazing shot. It was like, wow. Yeah, I loved it.
But like I said, they did a great job of introducing Juliet.
Yep.
I mean, how many shows struggle? I mean, they've had a couple clankers with. We'll get to them later on in season 3. But to have a show that's already established, and they took a chances because I remember we didn't get to see a lot of our Losties right away. It was we had a lot of New Otherton and the others.
Saeed wasn't there, and Hurley wasn't there, and
so they took a big chance on bringing in new characters. And kind of changing, moving the story in a different direction or extending the story maybe, and adding new characters. That's a risk for any show, but they did a great job of doing it.
Yeah,
I like the scene when she brings him a grilled cheese, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't." She was like, "Oh, I didn't make it. I just put the toothpicks in." And I'm like, once again, there's a metaphor. She's not really in charge. Ben's making her do all this. He's the one making the grilled cheese.
But it was burnt. So do you think that she might have made it? She just didn't want to admit it.
Oh, because the burnt muffins.
Yeah, I'm just like, I see burnt grilled cheese, and I'm like going,
I don't know.
It's got to be Juliet.
Their banter back and forth was so great because he's like, well, you must be a doctor then. When she's like, you're probably hallucinating, and she says, no, I'm a repo woman. After he told her that he was a repo man. Right. And I was like, she sees through you. She knows. She knows. And I also wanted to note that, at the very beginning, there's also Jack, I mentioned he's pulling on the chains and she says, let it go. And I think that's really, they could have never known it at this point, but it's really foreshadowing with Juliet in the chains later in season 5 and Jack going along with Jack's plan and all that. But on top of that, I feel like there's this overall theme about being bound in like more way than one with her. So you have chains, and then later she's handcuffed to Kate, and obviously she's bound on the island. So there's that. And I thought it was odd. Ben, it's so creepy. It's so like there's the Jack and Juliet stuff going on, and I think there's a lot of great scenes that happen behind that glass. For the entire time that he's stuck there, there's so many good scenes that happen. But going to the other side of things, I think that it was interesting that Ben left the handcuffs on the table for Kate.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, once again, she's like, can't run away from this, can I? Can't run away from my past. It's always got to be present.
Yeah, that's a great point. I forgot about that.
And it was so creepy. It was so creepy. Like waking up, you've got this cotton swab, Band-Aid, somebody's drawing your blood. She's laying on the ground, and Mr. Friendly is staring at her. So there's one thing I don't like about the overall, or I think that they could have done better with Lost. And I had a gripe about this episode. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go ahead. We're here for it.
So, Mr. Friendly's like, Kate's like, I'm not changing in front of you. And Mr. Friendly is like, you're not my type. So everybody was like, is he gay? Evangeline Lilly is beautiful. During this time, she's on the cover of all the magazines. She's like the biggest female television star at the time. So, and especially, on the show, for him to say that, it's like, what are you hinting at? And unfortunately, Lost did fall into the trope of gay characters being kind of the villain. And I know everything's not black and white on the show, but when you have Mr. Friendly, the others, kidnapping kids, it's not good. And they really failed. And I know it was a different time, and they're the show is great in terms of diversity, but in terms of LGBT representation, they did not do good. And as a gay person, and I still love Lost, that's okay. But there's this really good documentary. It's over several episodes and it covers several decades, but it's on Apple TV, and it's called Visible. And it talks about how LGBT people are portrayed in the media. And like at first we started out being, villains and murderers and the crazy ones, and all the way going back to like Norman Bates, things like that. And then it slowly over time, we become the fun character who makes all the jokes, things like that. And then I feel like, and then a lot of them had lesbians where they would be like a bullet would just come out of nowhere, and the creators would like kill off, the character for no good reason. And I guess the most recent thing I can think of is the 100 with the Lexa character or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Because there was a big outcry over that, and like using the same trope over and over. And I'm not sure ABC would have even allowed, a heavy gay storyline at the time. But then you have the TV show Brothers and Sisters with Sally Field, which didn't come out much later, or I mean, around the same time as Lost.
It was around the same time, yeah.
And it has gay characters, and they were portrayed well. So I just wish there could have been a character, maybe a son or dad who was like leaving Australia, and maybe the parents didn't accept their kid, and then their kid does survive the plane crash and gets like a new chance where people know like him for him, just for being a member of the castaways or whatever, and that's not seen as a negative quality for him, like he was taught with his parents. And maybe that person could have been one of the people rescued, and you could see like a emotional scene about a father and a son, and where the parents coming around, and like after thinking he was dead for however long, 3 months or whatever, 6 months, they like changed,
Yeah, that would be a good
their
story.
thoughts. I think that would be a really, I think that would have been a great way to incorporate, to have that kind of representation on the show, and to show it in a positive light. But yeah, that's one thing I've always been pretty vocal about on the show, is that they could have done a lot more with that.
Well, the good news is there'll be some kind of reiteration coming down the line, so who knows? Maybe something like that'll.
I'm sure in the reboot, because you look at Grey's Anatomy. I mean, I'm not a big Grey's Anatomy fan, but my wife watches it, and she's doing another rewatch, which you just rewatched it. She can't get enough of it. So, but I've seen enough of the episodes to know what's going on, and I think that's a pretty diversified show as far as.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of LGBT representation on that show, and that's been out for almost as long as Lost was.
It was a year after Lost, I believe. Came out.
So. And then they introduce Greta and Bonnie, I think, in the underwater Dharma station.
Oh, yeah.
I know nothing was ever specifically said, but it was like two women living alone in that thing. I think people assumed that they were lesbians, but once again, they were like others, and they were considered like the villains.
Right.
So I'm like, stop it. So anyways, I thought I'd throw my experience out there, but.
The only thing I lost, though, is it kind of did a good job of saying everyone was a kind of a villain. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have Kate, who's a hero, but she's also a murderer. Yeah. Sawyer, who's eventually a hero, he's a murderer. There's a lot of
torture.
There's a lot of murderers on the show.
So there's a lot of people that did a lot of bad things. But I mean, because that was always the argument Ben made. We're the good guys. Mm-hmm. We're the good ones, and even Tom, we're the good ones. We're here we're doing what's the ultimate, the ultimate good, which is like going, yeah, you're not really doing that, but that's what they believed, and because that's what Ben would tell them, hey, this is what Jacob wants, and Jacob wants us to do this, and for the greater good, is what I should have said, but it's like, I don't know, you're all pretty dirty to me. That's just me. Mm-hmm. But I root for Kate and I root for Sawyer over the others because that's what the show wants me to do.
Yep.
There's also the scene in A Tale of Two Cities when they're like, don't open the door, and Jack opens the door and the water rushes in.
Right.
And you see Ben, he's like, I don't care, because Jack has the broken piece of plate up to Juliet's neck, and Ben's like, I don't care, kill her. If you open the door, we're dead anyway. And then he shuts Juliet out when he leaves.
Yeah.
So that's another strong indication that like these two are not operating. You know, he's making her do this and she's not wanting to, and he don't really care about her. So that you already have like some sense of something's off. She's not fully, you know.
No, she's not in the Ben as a like I said earlier, that Ben is a god.
No,
she
sees through that.
She does her own thing, even though she does. But we find out later on she does this because she wants to get back home to her sister and everything else. She wants to get back, so she's having to do things. She's forced to do things that she doesn't want to do.
Towing the line, you know, just to go on.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look at my notes really fast.
The leaf blower guy's gone, so that's good.
Oh yeah. It was kind of bittersweet that Jack was like, out of all the questions he could have asked Juliet, he said, you know, is Sarah happy? Is she happy? Mm-hmm. And she was like, yeah. So I don't know if it was a plot device to kind of make the flashback, you know, correlate to what's going on island, or if it was weighing heavily on him at that time and so much craziness had happened and he doesn't know how soon he's going to die because of it, and now he's kidnapped and captured, that maybe he's thinking back on the person he really loved, and
maybe that he felt he didn't make her happy, and that's why he always Jack's a fixer, so maybe that's why he was so obsessed with, because he knew he didn't make her happy, that he felt he had to make her happy because his dad, you know, growing up, he was not a happy child growing up. His dad didn't make him happy. His dad was always disappointed in him. He even says it at the AA meeting, you know, and so maybe that's what it was. And so when he found out that she was happy, maybe that gave him some closure for that. Because, okay, I don't have to make her happy. She's happy. Right. She found happiness. So, I mean, if you actually, I mean, I know it's hard to say, and we all don't think that way, but if you actually care about someone, even if they decide to leave you, if they ultimately find happiness, you should be, I mean,
happy
I would think
for them.
Right,
yeah.
Happy for them.
If you really loved them or not, you know?
Yeah.
If you really loved them, then you would feel that happiness that they're happy.
Right.
No matter what it's toll on you is.
Or that he wanted to fix her and he couldn't do it, but someone else did, but at least she's happy. And of course, Matthew Fox is a great crier, so it's always hard when he's doing scenes because he's a fantastic crier.
I did write that down, that this was a superb acting performance from Matthew Fox all the way around. Like, he had me believing I was trapped in that glass cage too, and he kicked it, and yelling basically the whole flashback at his dad, at his ex-wife.
And he was just so
crying,
stressed out. But it's funny. We've talked about the glass. I don't know if you guys have ever done it. I have. I've walked into a glass plane. Nothing hurts more. First, it's embarrassing.
Screen doors, but like
first it's embarrassing, but it just boom. Oh my God!
You need to hang one of those little flower sucky cup things like you do on your screen, on your patio door. You know.
So you remember it's there, but he did. It almost looked like he really walked into it. I mean, I know it's the magic of television, but I was like, going, God, it's great acting or whatever it was, but.
Now I'm picturing Juliet coming in and being like, here's some markers and an eraser. You can write on the glass. If you get bored, you can draw. Just chill out. It's okay.
Bill, you mentioned the Red Sox winning the World Series because that's what his dad will always say.
Yeah.
You know, the Red Sox will never win the series. So
that was a great.
Ben says, "Oh, the Red Sox won the World Series," which actually did happen.
Yep.
And that thing, and Jack's like, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably thinking there's the flashbacks about his dad, about Sarah and all this stuff, and then when he actually sees the Red Sox won the World Series, he's like, I think that just brings back emotion too. So,
and as viewers too, watching that, we're like, wow, this is real. They have
Yeah.
This happened just recently, so we felt like we were also watching something eventful that just happened.
And it was. I don't know. A lot of people remember that playoff, but that was an amazing World Series because they were down 3 games to the Yankees, the Red Sox. He's thinking, and they played terrible in the 3rd game, if I can remember correctly. And they came back and won they just swept the Cardinals, came back and swept the Yankees after that, and then went on to sweep the Cardinals, who were not a bad team, to win the World Series. So it was one of those amazing things after, since 1918 they hadn't won the World Series?
Oh, yeah, no, it was over. Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, you think a team like that, like the Red Sox, and they've had great teams all, since I've been around.
Oh, yeah. Yaz, Carly Yastrzemski, and
I mean, just, Jim Rice. But they, so it's just kind of maybe tied into loss where, it's kind of fantasy type thing where, well, the Red Sox won the World Series, and it was always what Christian Shepherd would say. And it's funny that they would choose that line that he would say before they actually won the World Series. So hats off to the writers of Loft for knowing what was going to happen ahead of time.
This was also the episode where we found out that what Ben's real name was, because we had only known him as Henry Gale. And at the opening shot, that the asshole guy in the book club was like, Ben wouldn't read this in the bathroom, but you don't know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
You still don't know who that is, even with him when they came out of the house, and with him saying, "I guess I'm out of the book club." That still doesn't mean that that's him. But it's at the end when Juliet walks out from giving Jack food, and he's finally eating, and he's like, "Thank you," and she's like, "You're welcome, Ben," and just stares at like a death stare. And then you're like, okay, his name's Ben. But then in the next episode, he's like, Benjamin Linus. So you get his full name. He's like, and I was born on this island.
Lie.
Yeah.
Another lie. Yeah.
That's what Ben does.
Mm-hmm.
And son.
Well, good segue. Mm-hmm. We start up the Glass Ballerina. Son breaks the Glass Ballerina. Her father comes in. She's playing the piano, and her father comes in. Scary dad. He's a scary. We know he's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you break this? Mm-hmm. No, the maid did it. Maid did it, and he knows she's lying.
Mm-hmm.
But they ended up firing the maid, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we assume. I think so.
Now, do we blame Son? Because what's Son here? Like 5 or 6, maybe?
Do we blame her for lying?
We'll blame her for lying because she's a kid, and if the maid did get fired, it's a bad thing. But do you blame? I mean, she's obviously in fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really. He's not. Again, he's almost like. Again, everyone on the show has daddy issues, so he's not the kind of dad I'd want.
No.
I mean, he's ruthless, so she's learned ruthless at a young age. So ruthless is gonna lie. So
out of fear, she goes, "Yeah, the maid did it, Dad." Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She is probably like absolutely terrified of him.
Right.
Yeah.
So of course she's gonna be like, "No, I don't want to be in trouble," and which also had me thinking about, Ji Yeon, in like later seasons, how the grandparents basically are raising, their daughter. And I'm like, okay, because, from what I remember, Son, basically takes complete control of her dad's business.
Mm-hmm.
But then she goes back to the island and dies. So I don't know who has her business. She probably was smart enough to leave it to her daughter or something. I don't know. Or if something ever happens to me, make sure Kate's in charge or something. I don't know. She had contact with her,
Right.
So I just wonder how better. I just hope that their daughter had a good life, because we know the grandparents are evil, especially the Son's dad. But hopefully, after the whole surviving a plane crash, Son crippled him at his knees by taking away all his money. Hopefully they realize that like other things in life matter, and maybe he wouldn't be so mean.
You just at a certain age, you just don't change. Most people just don't change. I mean, you are who you are at a certain age. I think that was always been we'll go skip ahead till season 6. That when I always said that Jen should have said, okay, as hard as it is, I need to go for our daughter, because who's going to raise our daughter?
Right.
Your dad.
You think they would have let him though?
Your dad is an ass. So I can't.
Yeah.
And I know I took a lot of heat for it, because people are like, no, that was. I go, yeah, it was a beautiful scene. I mean, it's like, okay, they finally got back together, because they were separated for 2 seasons, and they finally get back together and they die together. I get it, but you have a child, and your first responsibility to me. I mean, like I said, it's that whole thing. Okay, your wife's over there, your child's over there, you're here in your ocean. Who do you save? I go, well, my child. As much as I love my wife, I have to save my child. And so, but a lot of people don't believe that. So anyway, I've always said that. I go, Jerkface is raising your child. So,
well,
but
maybe Hurley did something. Who knows? He was, he was aware of the situation. He could have done something.
Yeah. I was really torn about it at first too, like you said, but I thought, even if Jen made it off the island on the plane with everybody else, I mean, I don't know if Sun's parents, I don't know how much they even know about the island. Sun probably kept a lot of it secret, and
that's true.
They had a grave for Jen, and if he just randomly shows up and is like, just kidding, it's not me that's dead, it's Sun, like, I doubt they're going to be like, okay, here's your daughter, take it, because they just saw him as a piece of crap. So I don't know. I don't think they would have. And then there's like custody. And I mean, the others could have maybe helped him out, but like Sun's parents were so powerful. And I just don't know if he would have even had a relationship with her.
Right.
So.
We also too that I know I have 4 grandkids now, and I treat them probably better than I treated my kids. Because you care about them, and you, like I said, you want them to like. So maybe Jen's dad did say, "Okay, I'm a grandpa now. I can be nice."
A little less stress going on when you have.
We can hope, but I don't know. The guy's he's a pretty angry guy.
and Bill, like you said, Hurley could have helped them out, and Kate, when they got back home, could have helped them out, or somebody would have. Kate, had just had that interaction with Sun. So Sun trusted her enough to meet up with her. And, Hurley was obviously there the day they went to Jen's grave.
Exactly.
And so she kept those relationships. And if she was able to like take control of the company out from under him without him knowing, she probably had so many different type of wheels and things in place that where if something happened to her, she knew that the grandchild wasn't going.
Right. Yep.
But then she left the grandkid with her mom's, and that's the last time we see Sun's mom. But she's like laughing and with the kid. So we'll hope she had a good life. Have a spin-off.
Well, Jen never met her, right?
Yeah, I mean, he just saw pictures on the camera, I think from Widmore.
Widmore,
yeah. Yeah, they had taken it in season 6, and he saw pictures. So he didn't really know her, but the same could be said for Aaron and Claire, because she knew him the first 3 months of his life that he was a baby, and then the next 3 years she didn't know him, just like Jen. So
do we know that? Do we know for sure it was Jen's baby?
Yes, Juliet helped Sun determine that. That's right. Okay. Yeah, because she said baby was conceived on island, and because before that, Sun was like, either way, I lose. I'm pregnant with the man that I had an affair with, or I'm pregnant with his child, or it's Jen's, baby, and it happened on island, and Juliet had already told her that the pregnant women die on the island. So she knew in that moment, before Juliet told her either way, that it, either option was going to be bad for her. So, but I thought it was also funny at the funeral, when Sun's dad showed up, he said, she was like, "Are you going to tell Jen?" And he was like, "It's not my place." And I was like, "It's Juliet's place. She's going to be telling Jen." And a lot of people don't like her for that. But if I was in her shoes, I would have done the same thing, because Sun wasn't listening. And because Juliet did that, it's the only reason why Sun and her baby was even able to live. The only reason that had to have happened. So
now, was the dad telling Sun she needs to tell him, or just saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He was like, "It's not my place to tell him; it's yours." Basically,
yours. Mm-hmm. Which she didn't. She never did.
And then he was also so evil. He was like, "I'm sure this man felt great shame." Son's boyfriend who died by suicide, and I thought, just basically say you're to blame for him, dying. That's basically what it said.
Was it suicide because he had the necklace?
Mm-hmm.
Was that because a lot of people say that was his dad sending a message saying, because I know there was theories going back and forth. Did he commit suicide or was he thrown out of the window?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure Jen beats him up and then leaves. He's like, I was sent here to send a message, but this is the only message I'm sending because Jen couldn't go through it.
Right, but I think his dad knew that Jen couldn't go through it because Jen had done that before.
So you think somebody else was there to throw him out the window?
There was probably someone else in the room, and when Jen didn't complete the mission, I said I would think suicide until you see the necklace. Mm-hmm. He's got when he's laying on Jen's car, he's clinging to the necklace. So
his dad couldn't have put it in his hand and it falls.
No, it wasn't the dad. It wasn't the dad. I'm sure it was someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But the dad could have been in the room for all I know.
I'm pretty sure that he died by suicide because if you watch the scene with Jen and him talking, Jae Lee, Son's boyfriend or whatever, he knows who Jen is, but Jen doesn't know who he is. So that dialogue, Son's boyfriend, he thinks that Jen knows exactly who he is and what he's done, that he was sleeping with his wife. So he thinks that it's all about to come out. And all that Jen knows is that this guy disrespected Son's dad and I've got to beat him up. So he said whatever. The Son's boyfriend took it to heart and thought that literally meant his life was about to be over. Everybody was going to know what he did. He had to leave the city, blah, 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 blah. So I think when you take it in that context, him, Son's boyfriend, looking at it from that perspective, that's why I'm pretty sure he jumped out the window. Well, that's what makes me think that. I never knew there was a debate on this.
Oh yeah, it was a huge debate.
Yeah, I kind of assumed it was somebody. It was Son's dad had it done because Jen didn't follow through.
I remember. I just remember
really
huge debate about it. Yeah,
a marker. Yeah, the necklace was like a marker.
Is it on Lostpedia?
It probably is. But I remember we got because doing the project, we got several. It was going back and forth, and we had our message board. And I kind of was going both ways. I said, it's the necklace. I go, the fact that he had the necklace in his hand, I think he was thrown out of the window. If there's no necklace, I would say yes, suicide. But again, it's one of those great things about Lost. This episode came out in 2007. It's now 2020. And we're...
Yeah. See, that's so weird. I've never even heard that, not once. I assumed the pearls or the necklace was just because he loved Son, and he had asked her to go away with him, and he knew that would they'd never be able to, and he knew how powerful her dad was, and that his life was basically over, and he thought Jen knew. So, I think it was in that moment he made that split-second decision.
Well, SDJ Coxie in the chat says, I agree with Caleb too. It's always been not even debatable.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even know it was a debate. Yeah, I'm like, is there a DVD commentary on this or something?
The necklace makes it as a marker of the suicide. He's holding them because it's the last happy thing he had. I mean, yeah, you can go either way with it, but I've always felt that he was thrown out of the window.
Because we see him, I guess we see him kind of fall, but Jen's walking around his car. Or no, he falls on Jen's car. I can't remember.
He falls on Jen's car.
He falls on Jen's car. So
Jen's like, come on.
Jen just left there. Yeah. So
got in the elevator, came down to the second floor, he was on the second floor. Boom, boom.
So we're supposed to believe that other henchmen were like monitoring the situation to make sure Jen was going to
I
kill
like
him, and
it.
if he didn't,
I could see them being in the room ahead of time because remember, Mr. Lee's not in the hotel room. He sees him outside, and Jen follows him to his room.
Mm-hmm. I misread DJ Coxie. I misread that. I thought he said he's holding them because it's the last happy ending that he had, but I guess not.
less happy thing. Thing.
This reminds me of Son that she was. I could have had her. Oh no, I can't because the dad is a madman. No, what I said is because Lee was not in this room. He was outside his apartment, and Jen follows him into the apartment complex and follows him up to the second floor.
Okay.
So there could easily have been someone in the room.
Oh, just hiding out the whole time?
Yeah, I mean, you don't.
I mean, okay, sure. I mean,
because Jen's dad wants him. I mean, Son's dad wants him dead. He wants Lee dead without question. He wants him dead,
right?
And he knows that Jen's not going to. He knows Jen doesn't. Jen didn't want to do it in the first place. But he called him son. He goes, "Oh, I've been waiting for you to call me son," you know. But like SDGA and the things make it good. His falling foreshadowed the Glass Ballerina falling from the start, which also is by Son's actions,
and that's great.
I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, it's both.
But still, that could go for what you're saying and for what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I still believe what I'm saying.
I mean, I've never seen it answered.
That's crazy.
I've never seen it answered any other way. I mean, if
I like search this, is it going to show me?
I don't know. As I said, I haven't talked about it since.
Let me go to that.
Probably the last time I watched it 4 or 5 years ago, but I don't know. It's one of those amazing things. Again, it's an amazing thing about Lost. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bill and I could be wrong, and you and SDJ can be correct. It's like, I don't know.
Let's see. Jen waits in his car. He follows Jae Lee to his hotel and violently attacks him and puts a gun to his head and is about to kill him. Jae Lee cries that he's sorry, thinking that Jen is attacking him because of his affair with Son.
Right.
Jen cannot bring himself to pull the trigger and warns him to leave Korea and never return. And then as Jen sits in his car afterward, the body of Jae Lee falls from above onto the hood of the car, clutching the pearl necklace he wanted to give Son. That's in the description. Now, I don't know, like in the trivia here, or if there's any type of like DVD commentary or production notes here. A deleted scene where Jen speaks with Jae Lee's mother at the funeral. Originally, Miss Clue was going to be killed by Son in this episode, not Colleen, which I love. I love that scene when she's like, "I know you, Son. You're not going to kill nobody." Yeah. And Son's like, "Bang!
I will kill you." Back up.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
That was great. That was Trixie from Deadwood, man. That was great.
Yeah.
She's also the very horrible mother in the Hunger Games.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
She was also in Caprica.
Oh, okay.
Short-lived series on. She's in a lot of things. She's she's Irish, I think, an Irish actress. Because I first saw her on Deadwood, and then when I saw her on something else, I went, "Wait, what?" Carol says, "I never really figured out this answer. I just assumed it was the evil dad."
Yeah. And the pearls letting Jen had no idea Son was part of it. So the pearls were saying, "This is why I want you to kill him. See these pearls? You have no idea what these pearls are about."
That's a good point, Bill. That's a good point, Bill. You're bringing it up here.
Jen wouldn't know whose pearls those were.
Well, there was still a message. Just this is what it's about, you know.
Well,
this would be a great place in the comment section if people watching this.
Please comment and say that I'm right. I'm just kidding. It's just a debate. Apparently it is. They could have beat him up more and threw the body all over.
My goodness. Great. It's great writing though. It's what Lost does best. I keep saying this.
Yeah.
Is they didn't say it's up to you to decide what happened. I mean, we could point to different things. I mean, everyone's making great points. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I can see that. But ultimately, I believe he was thrown out of the window.
Mm-hmm.
I just believe that. But again, if it weren't for if the necklace wasn't there, yeah, he jumped.
So yeah, I feel the opposite.
Yeah,
I feel like because the necklace is there,
yeah,
it means he jumped.
yeah, because he would have had time. He would have had time to go get the necklace.
He's probably like bloody and battered, and is just like looking at this necklace and the life that he could have had. And now he's told that he has to leave Korea.
Well, he had a chance to marry her in the beginning, and he chose not to. Remember, they went on a blind date.
Yeah,
and his son liked him, and when
it went well, right? And then he started teaching her English.
Well, he had a girlfriend in America. He just did
that's right.
to please his his mom and stuff like that. So anyway, and so she meets Jen because of. So if he just would have said, "Hey, okay, yeah, this is who I truly love. This is my soulmate. He's alive. She's alive. Jen's not even on the island." See, it's a chain of events that happens because he didn't fall in love with her right away. And SD says again, to me, it's more logical. It makes more sense for the theme of the episode, which is about Sun and what her actions cause.
Oh, he said it's not what's more logical. It's what makes more sense for the theme, which is what Sun and her actions cause, which we all agree on that.
Yeah.
We just disagree on.
If the dad hadn't caught them together, then you're like, okay, yeah, he just committed suicide, Jen, Right. But what Jen, his dad actually, caught them together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he wanted him dead.
That was the message.
Yeah.
So,
but yet they hated Jen. So like, who's good enough for her? Really, nobody.
Nobody.
They're controlling evil parents. It happens all the time. The
reason he accepted Jen is because he could get Jen to do whatever he wanted, except be a murderer.
Well, now, okay. So what's the order of things? Sun, she does have the affair, and her dad finds out about it. So as punishment, her dad makes Jen work for them. Right. Which was that already happening?
Well, Jen was already working for him because because remember that's why she had the affair, because he was
okay. This was the first.
He was not the same guy that Sun married because of what he was doing, but not because of Sun, but because what his dad was making do because he married Sun.
Right. He's like, I'll give you a job. Part of Jen's job was beating people up anyway. This just happened to be a guy who was sleeping with his wife.
Right.
So, but the whole reason why Jen's working for Sun's dad is because later, which we find out, is that Jen is infertile and they can't have kids. And so Jen's mother blackmails Sun, and Sun has to go to her dad and be like, I need all this money. And I can't remember what all she says, but he gives it to her and he was like, well, your husband's going to have to pay me back for this. And that's when he started making Jen be all crazy and, punch guys out and be a hitman basically. But it was because of the infertility issues. And on top of that, you had Sun was doing this to protect Jen because I think the blackmail that Sun's mom had, she was a prostitute. And I think she was like, you don't want your big family to, it to get out that your husband's from, has a prostitute as a mother or something like that. And so because it's
shaming and
shame on your family, that kind of thing. And I think that Sun was doing this to protect Jen, which then Jen had to do this to protect Sun. It was like they were always doing something that was like for each other, but then always backfired because it hurt if they would have just got rid of Sun's parents and said, y'all are too controlling, we're leaving. If they would have just done that, I mean, her parents were the root of the issue.
She was afraid of. They were afraid of their parents. He
oh
couldn't,
yeah.
I mean, where could they go? It's almost like the best thing that happened to them was crashing on the island.
Exactly.
Because once they got past season 1, their love really came. Even though in this episode, we also have. In the beginning, Saeed wants to, sail the boat to a different location. Jin's like, no. He wants to protect his pregnant wife. This is great. All right, we tried. It's not working. But Sun goes, no, I can sail the boat. So she's still fighting. She's still fighting because she doesn't want to be told what to do.
Yeah, I wrote that down because I said that she's continuing to find her strength and stand up for herself, coming into her own, making her own decisions, even if it's like, I'm going to sell the boat, because for so long it was like, shut up, sit down, don't say a word. And now she's kind of like, look, this is equal. Like, I'm going to put us both in danger if this is going to be the case. Stop being overprotective or tell me what to do. So that's, what she started to do.
Jin was right.
What? About what?
They should have sailed back because at this point.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Saeed, I said, good. Let's finish this part we're on here. SD said, the blackmail was based on social class. Nobody knew Jin was infertile at that point. And Gail says her father was a fisherman. Jin said he was dead. So.
Right.
So there's that whole, Jin was keeping those, I don't think he knew about his mom then, did he?
No, Jin didn't know about his mom, I don't think. I think Sun knew and was protecting Jin from that. But Jin lied about his dad being a fisherman. And he just said he died. But this same type of thing happened with the infertility issue, because the dad or the doctor said it was Sun in the meeting.
Because he was afraid of Jin.
Yeah, because he was afraid of Jin. And then later he was like, no, it's really Jin. Mm-hmm. But was there any other fallout from that, or was that just another secret?
I think it's just another secret.
Okay.
Right? Because then when we find out the Sun's pregnant, and we're like, wait a minute, how's she pregnant?
Yes.
Was it did the island do something to, or did she, then we find out she had an affair? It's like, oh my God, was it, and then a lot of people thought, for whatever reason, they thought it was Michael. I remember people thinking it was Michael because they thought Sun and Michael had an affair, even though we never saw it. We always saw the tension, but we never saw it. But that was a big deal. Oh, it's Michael's baby and all that stuff. But I forgot what I was talking about before. But about the boat, and this is what always cracked me up. Is I thought Saeed is a good soldier, but his planning is not always there. Why would you leave the boat?
And we got alone on the boat. The both of them got off the boat.
Yeah,
she was alone.
Yeah. I think it was a way to get it out of play. Basically,
I would have told Sun and Jin, okay, you go on the boat, I'll stay on here. Mm-hmm. If that's I just thought it was a terrible plan.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember, I think. At the beginning, Juliet says something like, so what? They'll just sail around in circles all the time. And that I think I remember hearing or seeing a theory posted on the forums about like, they are in a snow globe or something. Yasmin had said something about a snow globe. We're trapped in a bloody snow globe or whatever. And then you're like, can you not leave the island? And then with the season 2 finale, Ben had mysteriously allowed Michael and Walt to leave by specific coordinates, and you don't know if that really was real or if he sent them to like hell or what. Like, you don't know. So
that's also because Jack said, "Oh, you just let him go." He goes, "Yeah, I made a deal with him."
Right.
Well, that was the last episode. We forgot to talk about that, but because all Juliet knows is you can't get off the island because that's what she's told.
Yeah,
but there's certain coordinates that you have, so the boat would be useful to get off.
Oh my God!
If you do the coordinates, but She doesn't know that.
I just realized she didn't know the coordinates to get off. Well,
No.
she's helping usher people onto the boat to get on the Kahana. She's like, son, no, everybody wait, son, you go first. You're pregnant. You and Jen go first. But was it Faraday who figured out those coordinates and she knew about it by then?
I believe it was Faraday, yeah.
I think that's the only reason why she found
But
it.
I'm sure most of the others didn't know the coordinates. It was probably the inner circle, and or maybe just Ben and Patchy,
Richard,
knew what was going on. But like you said, Juliet, there's no way they're going to tell Juliet because Juliet would be on the first boat out of there.
Yeah, or maybe she did know. She just didn't know how to do all this without realizing what she's doing. Or she might have.
Because they didn't know about Desmond's boat because he had a sailboat. They didn't know. Right. They didn't know anything about the boat.
She may have thought, yeah. Well, okay, never mind.
Well, how'd you think she got? I mean, the submarine had to know the coordinates, right, to get in and out.
Now that's my theory of the submarine. That the submarine's just it's a farce. That submarines they just tell people that the submarine. I think somehow they get to the island the same way that Anthony Cooper was brought to the island.
Okay.
Because why would you have I'm a passenger on the submarine. I have to be put out. Why is the captain put this is a remote control submarine?
Well, it's like when Batman used to take people to the Batcave. He had to put a hood on them so he couldn't see where the Batcave.
So I think it's similar to that they put them under, make them think it's been weeks, months, whatever it is.
I like that
because obviously you want people to. You don't want people to find out how you get to the island, right?
Right.
And how because you find out how you get to the island, you can find a way to get off the island.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be wrong. It could be another thing I'm wrong. I'm sure.
I'll buy that.
I'm not buying the whole sub. I've never bought the whole sub thing. I've never.
Right. But then they do aren't like season 5 or 6. Where are we? That they're on the submarine leaving.
Well, they think they're leaving.
Okay.
That's when the sub blows up, right? And we have Son and Jen going back to them. They pass away.
No, but even don't Sawyer and Kate bail on the sub at some point?
I think they do. Yeah, I think they do.
Right,
because they're on the beach.
Right,
when the sub blows up.
All right,
and they're crying. That emotional scene.
Who's on the beach?
I think it's
Jack and Juliet, right? Because Locke comes out from the submarine and is like, "I blew it up. You can't go home."
It's like I know Hurley's on the beach because we talked to him about that scene.
After.
Yeah, when Son and Jen.
Oh,
right, okay.
Because he says in that scene they actually shot it so many times they were actually laughing, not crying.
It looked like he was crying,
but they were crying but they were actually laughing because it was.
Oh, I've never heard that. Oh, don't tell me that. That's one of the saddest.
Didn't you get the vibe when Son and Jen met in the water? It was almost exactly like in the water in the submarine.
True,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wrote that down. Yeah.
So
at the very beginning of the episode, Juliet comes out and knocks on the door, and Ben opens it, and you see all the monitors.
Yes.
And he's looking at Jack and all these, so you're like, okay, he's monitoring him. But he says, "You never made soup for me."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, here we go. She just stares at him like, screw you, like, leave me alone. But yeah, I just thought that's just another. Ben just wants what he can't have.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Just evil.
Oh, he's so resentful of that.
Yeah. Well, he's already like, you're being nice to Jack.
Right.
You're not nice to me. Well, no, duh.
Of course. That he sent Goodwin there to die, so because Juliet and Goodwin had a thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was always a theory too. That's why he sent him there.
That was also a moment of the Juliet we see now has already seen that Ethan and Goodwin is dead. She already knows that. And she knows what Ben's capable of and that he used them to manipulate the castaways to get what he wanted, and he didn't care if they lived or died. Now,
and she liked both. I mean, she was
friends with Ethan, and
the other one was fixing something, her pump or something underneath the.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now she realizes that he's put me in that position. I'm the one having to convince the Jack that he should calm down and, perform the surgery. So she and Jack already is a broken piece of plate, at her neck. So she knows it's already dangerous. He shut the door on her. She knows she's expendable, and he just don't even care about her anymore. I think he just is like, if she dies during all this, at least it's helped me get surgery, because he didn't care about Goodwin and Ethan.
Later on with his daughter, and it didn't work too well then. So,
right,
Amy and his daughter. So,
also, we forgot to mention Julia has a good right hook. She knocked.
Yes, when she knocked, she's. It's so funny. Like, she presses she's like, the button, hit the button, and Jack gets it, and she immediately knocks him out, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
So
You're
Jack
so cool.
He has a glass jaw. I mean, it was a good putt because she's pretty solid. She's a.
Yeah, later when she's got the gun pointed at Kate, I was like, once again, Juliet gets what I say. I said gets the jump on Kate, like she does many times. That's what I said.
Now, a lot of people, I've had a couple. In fact, someone messaged me before we recorded saying they're doing the rewatch with it. Goes, come on, Kate couldn't. Sawyer takes out 3 people. Kate couldn't take out 1 person. But you forget that Juliet was. I forget that but she's also Kate's in a dress. She doesn't have her.
She's
Kate clothes.
I did not like that. That was the only part. I really hated that whole runway building scene, and Pickett is such a caricature of It's one just like really. I mean, just kill him. I mean, he's such like over the top, too much. There's a little too much sexism, I thought, with Sawyer staring at Kate a little too much.
I think that's what they wanted, though. The others.
I know, but it was all over the top, and I don't.
Yeah.
I love everything about Lost, but I really was turned off a little bit by that portion of the episode.
Yes.
I
agree.
Pickett's a jerk, and the whole sexist thing, but
he's definitely a jerk.
Yeah. Oh man.
It was really.
You think she was broken at that point, Kate? She had the handcuffs on her. She was separated from Jack. She's, in this cage. That maybe that's why she didn't fight back.
I don't know. It's not.
I think Juliet walked over there with a gun. And Kate couldn't do anything.
That's true.
So, but what were you saying earlier, Bill, a second ago?
Just that whole runway building scene. I just don't like Pickett and Sawyer just groping.
Okay. So like, it's just been a few days since Sawyer slept with Anna Lucia. So I'm so like, everybody's like, so I'm not a skate shipper. I do not like Sawyer and Kate together at all whatsoever. And once again, this kind of, he just like walks over there and just grabs her face and just starts sticking his tongue all over her. And I'm like, stop that. That's not appropriate. And he just gets beat up, and it's just, he's like, because I wanted to. And the whole, like, you taste like strawberries. And I'm just like, that's great. Like, you've not been able to brush your teeth in how many days now? Does she really taste like strawberries? Yeah. Like,
she says you taste like fish biscuits.
Right. Yeah.
Now, he does say that he got some information by doing
that. Yeah.
That the tasers are have a safety device. That these guys have not been in battle. They're not really trained. So he did get some. So maybe it was planned to get some information, because they do kind of come back to say, well, he got information from this. He knows that this guy are useless. They're soft, and all that stuff. So maybe there's a reason behind it.
But then he says, but that blonde that had you by gunpoint, she would have shot you in a second.
Yeah.
And I was like, probably, because in season 6, Widmore's like, I'll shoot her. I don't have a list. Or I have a list. Her name's not on it. I'll shoot her. And once again, they're back at the cages, and Sawyer has to, give up his gun to save Kate. which is a nice, parallel that comes back later.
Mm-hmm.
SD in the chat says Juliet burning the cakes is such a lovely parallel to how season 5 we see her cooking happily in the same kitchen for Sawyer. So she doesn't burn things if she's happy, right?
She also burns her hand probably pretty well on the bomb when she hits it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of another parallel.
It also says beginning of her story, everything is falling apart, but the end, she's happy despite not having gotten away from the island. Love that parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she is happy. I mean, she's happy with Sawyer.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's fun, during rewatches to see, well, that's the first time they ever saw each other,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he gives her the water. She gives him the water.
Yeah, and he pours it out. I mean, why? She's being nice.
Turkey scene. I like the whole scene.
Well, he's trying to antagonize. He's trying to. He's being Sawyer.
He's flirting.
He's almost like Cool Hand Luke. He's
with what?
Cool Hand Luke. It's a.
Yeah. Also, if you go back, there's this. It's so weird, and I never noticed this until I watched this YouTube video like years ago. It was a fan made video. It was using the song "My Hands" from Leona Lewis, and hadn't really ever heard it. It's a very kind of obscure song, and it's set to Juliet and her theme, and it follows her storyline on Lost. And if you notice, they did a close up of her hand. She put it on the glass barrier between her and Jack. And if you notice throughout the series, there's always these lingering shots of her hands, of when she grabs the case of medical supplies from Sawyer and is, says, if you take this, you're going to have more blood on your hands. Let me go. There's a close up when in season 5 in Dharmaville when he's like, all right, we got to go. We got to pack her stuff up. And he grabs her hand and it's a close up shot. And then of course, when she's falling, there's another close-up shot. And then, of course, when she hits the bomb, and then when she burns her muffin. So there's this theme of, like, her hands and being, like, really powerful, I guess you could say. But, yeah, anyway, it made me notice all those little shots that were, like, lingered for just a little longer every time.
You think it was a hand double or was it her hand?
Oh, it was hers. Yeah.
It's George Costanza.
Exactly.
Well, I don't remember if it was the first episode or second episode, which episode it was, but the fish biscuit, when Sawyer finally gets the fish biscuit. Mm-hmm. He finally figures it out, and Friendly walks by and he goes, I figured out your fish biscuit thing. And it is, well, it only took the polar bears 2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah.
And then Sawyer, of course, well, there were 2 of them. Figure. So it's a great line.
Yeah.
I also thought that it was great that they showed the cages because so many people were concerned about how's there a polar bear and blah, blah, blah. And it's like experiments. They were experimenting on animals. There's your answer.
Yeah.
Here's the cages to show you.
A shark tank, because we saw the Dharma shark finally in, season 1.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And dolphins. Right. Juliet said. Dolphins too.
Yeah.
You guys wonder if they wrote Juliet's character in a way that would make her suitable match for Sawyer. I would assume it was the plan early on. Just interesting to consider.
Well, that brings me back to the love triangle part, which, Bill, you were talking about you didn't like in these few episodes. And I think I almost feel like, especially these first 8 episodes or so, they went real heavy all of a sudden on the love triangle. It's almost like ABC was like, you have to promote this as a love triangle. It's really in right now. I don't know if Twilight was out then, but that was like a big love triangle. And I know they tried to make Hunger Games the same thing when that was like not the same thing at all. They were like, promote Gale. And it's like, no, it's Katniss and Peeta. It's like, what are you doing? But I'm almost wonder if they were like, you have to promote the love triangle like really hardcore.
I mean, I'm no prude, man, but it was pretty borderline. A lot of these episodes with the sex part, sexism, and
well, I mean, it's just anytime Kate has ever gotten trapped or something, she's always like, Jack, where are you? And then suddenly she's like, Sawyer, and Ben says, now why Sawyer first? And I'm thinking, why Sawyer first? Like. Even when we see Jack, he's yelling for Kate behind the glass.
Right.
He never not once says Sawyer. which is actually odd for him because he usually screams out everybody's name because he obviously Kate's first.
Right.
But she's like, "Where's Sawyer and Jack?" And that doesn't even have a ring to it. Like you would share it and like you would say that normally. You'd be like, "Where's Jack and Sawyer?"
Yeah.
You know, just the way it comes off the tongue's odd. And I'm like, they just wrote that so Ben could say that to make people start thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he just had sex with Ana Lucia,
Mm-hmm.
and then he'll have sex with
they were slipping
Kate
the
in a
ratings
minute.
by then, right? The ratings were dropping.
Exactly.
So maybe they felt they had to do this. I mean, I know there were a lot of shippers out there. I was never a shipper. I didn't care who ended up with who for so much, especially the Jack Kate Sawyer thing. I was like, I don't care.
But at the end of season 3, we'll be able to have the conversation at the end of the season about the transitional makeup of this season 3 as a whole, and how really it needed to transition, and it does.
I think that they were trying to. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it's almost like Ben, instead of just asking Jack flat out, "Look, I have a tumor in my spine. You're a spinal surgeon. Can you take it out?" Jack's not going to say no. I mean, how many times has he helped fix Henry up when he was Henry Gale? I mean, Jack's a surgeon, and he's pretty loyal to his. I mean, he helped Sawyer when how many times did he fix people?
Right.
Sawyer. So there was this game that. I mean, I know it makes for interesting TV, and it gave them some episodes to because they had to expand at this point. They knew that they didn't have an end date yet, so they had to keep expanding the story. Mm-hmm. But if Ben just goes, look, he's not going to say no.
Right.
They didn't have to drag him. They could have just probably went to Jack and said, hey, we have this. We'll trade to do this, such and such. We'll give you back Walt. All this stuff could have been avoided, but that's not the way Ben does things.
Well, Jack did say no. I mean, he wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to do it because he didn't believe him about taking him off the island. It wasn't until they made sure they left that door open so Jack could see that Kate and Sawyer slept together. And then they also had Kate come into the room and say, whatever they're asking you to do, you have to do it or they're going to kill Sawyer. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, okay, now I have to do it, basically.
But I think I'm saying in the beginning when, Ben gets captured, this whole game, it's great television. I mean, it's great. And I wouldn't want it any other way. But if they just would have said, look, we got Walt. We know you want Walt back. We'll give you, because Walt was a problem for him anyway. We'll give you Walt back, but you have to operate on my back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him saying no, but of course that you lose like probably 20 something episodes, and it would have to go different directions. So
yeah, I mean, where were they going to? Because again, we go back to the conversation that Michael Emerson was only at a three episode arc or something like that.
I think it was just there for 6 episodes.
Yeah. So
he was so popular, such a great actor that they said we can't lose this guy.
Yep.
Well, they only aired those first. Was it 6 episodes? The one that's I Do. The one called I Do.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the first 6 season 3?
Yeah, the first 6 of season 3, and then they didn't usually do this, but then they took a huge break.
Yes,
like they just aired the first 6 in the fall, and then you had to wait till like February before the rest of the episodes came out. And I think it was during that time or midway through season 3, I think Damon had said something like, we had just a sit down meeting and said, how much farther do you want us to write about? We had a whole episode dedicated to Jack's tattoos. Let us plan this series out because we don't want to ruin it by frivolous episodes like introducing Nikki and Paolo, which didn't go so well. Things like that. So I think this was their experimental phase. Maybe they were trying to throw in a few more characters to make it last a little longer, but ultimately, they did need, and honestly, I think all shows need to do that. I will not watch anything. Very few shows will I watch. Just pick up and watch if it's not completed its run, because I've been burned too many times with like network TV and them canceling a show after 1-2 seasons, like The Expanse, and Elizabeth Mitchell was on the 3rd season of that, and I watched the first and second season to get ready for her being in the third season, and Luke and I ended up loving it. It actually got the award for most realistic portrayal of the future. I think that was like a couple of years ago in their first or second season. Anyway, so Sci-Fi just cancels it, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And it's like Game of Thrones. There's a ton of books, in The Expanse, and like, anyway, there was petitions, and anyway, it came back, and now it's on Amazon, which I love, but I just can't stand how and Netflix will do it too. They canceled what was that with Drew Barrymore about the vampires? It's so funny.
Santa Clarita.
Yes, after like two or three seasons, and then they end in a cliffhanger, and they're like, we're not doing it. And they did the same thing with Sense8, and then there was a petition to have that come back, and it came back for like a 2-hour finale, and it just Sense8 and the Santa Clarita Diet. Those are shows that they're Netflix originals. So why would you cancel your own show on your streaming service that will be there for the end of time without a proper resolution?
Mm-hmm.
Why would anybody ever watch that show again? Nobody's ever going to just pick up Santa Clarita Diet.
Well, I watched it, and then I fell behind. I said, I'll catch up with it. And then I said, I heard it didn't end well, and I said, no, I'm not.
Yeah, it's like there's no reason to watch it anymore. It's on your. Why would anybody do that? And I keep hearing of that more and more. So I don't know why I went on this tangent about this. I'm sorry, but yeah, I think we're lucky that Lost did not end up this way. And and I think most shows, which is what I was saying, should have a if it takes you 6 years to write a show and make it perfect, then do it, and then release 3 seasons all at once. Release them over the course of a few years. I mean, whatever. I think television is it keeps on changing, especially with all the streaming out there, and there's just no sense. I don't think
network TV knows what to do anymore. I mean, they just put out the same. It's basically every show is the same, and it's just like, okay, here's a lawyer show, here's a doctor show, either you like it or you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they're literally at a loss at what to do. Mm-hmm. But as they said, the writers have admitted they literally felt like the network had them in cages, forcing them to churn episodes. For the sake of it, it's no accident that the parallels between them and Sawyer and Kate being in cages forced you to have.
Good point.
So because they were that way. They were kind of clever that way about for the fans and also to the hey, look, because they did put pressure on saying we want to have an end date, and I think that, again, like you said, Caleb, that's the best thing that ever happened to Lost, because it had an end date. It was like Breaking Bad. It told the story. Boom, boom, boom. Game of Thrones, whether you like it or not, it didn't go on forever. Boom, boom, boom. And because you have shows that just, I keep going back to Dexter. That show just, at one point, I would put it in my top 10 shows of all time.
Right.
After season 4, season 5, it's like, okay, what are we doing here? And I watched it to the end. It's one of those shows I said, okay, but now I give it the Dexter test. I go, I'm not going to waste my time. If a show starts going sour, all right, you had me, but now I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be Dextered again.
Just a little history lesson, right? The term "jumping the shark" comes from where? From Happy Days. When Happy Days was on its way out, Fonzie was jumping off a ramp over sharks. They were like, "That's over, man."
Like, what else can you have to say at this point?
Yeah, he's never skied before, but he's going to jump a shark.
And I remember when people
the leather jacket.
I would be like, it's the final season of Lost, and they'd be like, oh, did it get canceled? And I'm like, no, they're telling a story and it's ending. And Lost was like one of the first shows to probably do that, to be like, we're ending in 2 more seasons.
Well, that's what he did with,
so you know.
Yeah, Watchmen, he did the same. This is it. Here's one season, 10 episodes, boom.
Right, yeah. And leftovers, I think they. But yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it. You need that gives the viewers faith in the storytellers, and it gives you, books don't go on forever; they end.
Yeah.
Everything ends, and so, I don't know how Grey's Anatomy does it, or whatever, NCIS or soap operas, but we're talking about shows that have substance, which is Lost.
All right.
Yeah, I don't get Grey's Anatomy, but that's
I mean, I'm sure it has substance. I don't watch it, but yeah. Not like Lost does. We're here because we're fans of Lost. So
I like my popcorn shows. I watch like the reboot of Magnum PI. I watch Hawaii Five-0 forever, and there's shows I just need to relax and I want to watch this show and have fun. I don't want to have to sit there and study every scene.
Right.
But speaking of which, I guess we'll get back to Lost. I do like the line where Saeed goes, how do you know? She said, you're lying, Saeed. Well, how do you know that, son? Because it goes back to the whole episode where she's been lying the whole time, and she's not Miss Innocent that she pretends to be. She's got it. Well, she's human. We all have a tendency to lie. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. That she's not this, poor little me. But then Jin knows that they're lying. I understand English a lot more than you give me credit for.
Yeah,
been around you guys for 90 days. I know what's going on.
I like when she tells Saeed, if they get to me or whatever, that means Jin's dead or they've got to him and I won't even care anymore. And I was like, that's a pretty powerful statement.
Well, which brings you to the season 6. Where they died together. So she didn't want to live with, he didn't want to live because he actually says, and this says it when they're she rescues it, they swim back and she's by the fire. She goes, I don't want to spend my life without you. So I guess they're telling us right there that when they get trapped together, which some gets trapped, they're going to die because Jin can't live without her.
Yeah.
So who am I to question Jin's motives at that point? I guess I should just be quiet.
So the flashback, one of them in this episode it basically sums up their relationship, Sun and Jin's, throughout the whole show. And we kind of touched on it earlier, but when he tells her, this is what it takes to be married to you.
Right.
And then she says, well, what does it take to be married to you? I thought this is right here. Like this is it. Like, that's all you need to know about their relationship is that like, it should not be that complicated. It should not be this hard, to stay together. And they're going through so much and it's from all these external forces and a few things they're doing themselves along the way. But it was so hard for each other to be married to the other because of external circumstances, his upbringing, her evil, controlling parents, that it was so hard that they tried so hard to make it work, up until the point where she was about to leave him before she decided to turn around and get on the plane. But it kind of it shows their what.
It's true. That's how a lot of times life is. I mean, a lot of marriages don't make it, not because it's because outside influence, how you put up your parents are, you can't tell your parents, okay, enough, stay out of my life. And you're not raising your kids right. You're not doing this. There's all, because everyone has an opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was believable. Of course, there was bad billionaire dad who was causing most of the problems, but it's how life is,
right?
Unfortunately.
And they also made a lot of sacrifices by being together, and I think they kept on doing that because they loved each other so much. I think he was willing to work for her dad if that meant beating people up, and she was willing to do whatever, and to blackmail his mom to keep the family from shame and all that. They kept on doing things for each other, and I think they should have just ran away together.
Well, they did technically,
and the island gave them that chance.
Yeah.
Like
I said earlier, it was one of the, like, Locke, I think, benefited from crashing on the island. He didn't take advantage of it.
Physically, yes.
Physically. I think also mentally, because he got away from he should have been away from all the outside distractions, but unfortunately he got caught up in the island.
Yeah, I was like, mentally, I think at first it was good,
yeah,
but then it was like, nobody can tell me what to do. And he started killing people.
Well, he wasn't winning. He wasn't winning anywhere. Off the island, on the island, he was never winning. So
he was good up until I think he found the hatch.
Right.
When Boone died is when he lost all kind of clout that he had among anybody. And the way he went about it, just bringing his body there, leaving, like he
it's what the island demanded. And season 2 at the end,
yeah.
Well, he tells Echo, this kid died because of the island. And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it was like he became a fanatic. So.
I mean, Kate didn't accept it. She would have been in jail. The plane doesn't crash, right? Of course, she's in a cage.
Yeah.
She's in jail.
She would have escaped anyway. She keeps escaping. She would escape.
But anyway, like I said, we talked about how Sun shoots Colleen. She escapes. She gets out of the boat. Friendly takes a shot at her, messes. They swim. Jin rescues her, and then Sai doesn't let them dry off. Says, "Okay, we got a long walk back. Let's get going."
Mm-hmm.
And so they walk back. I guess they're in a tropical island. I guess it's not too cold. Yeah. But you think you'd let them dry off first.
Little gunshot, a little refreshment. Good.
But anything else you guys want to talk about this episode?
I think you covered it pretty good.
Do we enjoy it? Do we like it?
I love A Tale of Two Cities. It's like I said, probably in my top 10 or top 20 episodes for sure. Because that reveal at the beginning. I mean, you may have kind of saw it coming, but you just had no clue.
I thought it was a Ben flashback, to be honest with you. I thought it was a flashback to when they were living somewhere else,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
and then so like at the end when Ben goes inside Jack's cell to tell him about the Red Sox and everything that we talked about, did he has this chair, and did you think he was about to do something, because it's like a really small chair and he pops it open and really loudly and sits on it, because Jack's sitting on the floor, so he Ben's trying to get down there on his level, and he just pops that foldable chair or lawn chair type thing. It's and it sounds like that little baton he uses later in the show that he beats people with.
That's true.
And I was almost like, what is he about to do? And then I was like, oh, it's a chair. What is he doing?
Like a callback to Indiana Jones, when the German guy takes the thing out and he's twisting it all around. He's waiting for it to be a weapon, and it's a hanger for his coat.
Yeah.
But I think it's also because doesn't Ben say something like, "Oh, the roles are reversed. We could go."
Yes.
I was locked up now you're locked up. So he's basically telling Jack, haha. It's always been playing head games. And with the chair, it might have been, a little head game thing there too.
And that's when he reveals his full name to Jack.
Yeah.
Benjamin Linus, and then shows him the ball game on TV. He was like, or Jack said, if you could leave the island, why would you still be here? And then Ben was like, exactly. Why would we be? And I was like, okay, that's the moment when it's been implanted in Jack's brain, something, people want to stay. Why? And I think that's the beginning of why. I mean, he still obviously wants to leave the island for several more episodes, or a lot actually, but I think that's the beginning of him realizing people will stay here willingly, which is never, in the audience has thought that too. Why would you stay there? I mean, some people are like, I'd want to live on an island. Yeah. But in terms of not being scared of the smoke monster and you're going to die and dynamite and all this,
people shooting me and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah. Jack's like, this is the first time I'm hearing somebody wants to stay here. Why is this happening? And they're showing me a TV and bringing me grilled cheese. I'm hallucinating. The first episode is kind of really trippy too, because, coming off of season 2, you're not sure what to expect. And then you're like, okay, they're in cages, and after after you see that first scene of Juliet and you find out about the others being on the island, and then you're like, okay, Kate's waking up here, and now he's fixing her breakfast, and Sawyer's in a polar bear cave. It's really like all over the place. If you think about it, people are like, how?
The music is similar to the original Planet of the Apes. It has that. If you listen to the music, it's similar. There's a couple times in Lost where in season 2 where Desmond's climbing the rocks, following Kelvin. It's similar to the original Planet of the Apes, and I think Michael Giacchino is a fan of.
Oh yeah, Jerry Goldsmith, I think it is.
Yeah, so I think it was because it's one of my favorite movies of all time, so I recognize it right away. But I could be wrong. But
no, I hear it definitely.
But I think that's all I got on it. I liked the episode. I thought it was, it's not the best episode, but I thought it kept the story going. And I remember at the time going, okay, I need to know more. What's going on? What's the plan? What do we do? How come we haven't seen Hurley and Locke? Because at this point we still don't know if Locke's alive, right?
I was about to say, is this the first time in the show when there's many different factions that they're dedicating an entire episode to a faction without even hearing from somebody else? Is this the first time?
So yeah.
They had to spread things out too. So
they had a few like the other 48 days and things like that where they focus just on the tail section. But I think in terms of like, they're scattered across the island and we're not sure where they're at. I think I think that's why a lot of people thought the beginning of this season was so slow. Because I know a lot of people who dropped out this season. Well, you can only do the flashbacks so much, and flashbacks after 2 seasons, you're like, what else can you tell? But then you had, the explosion of the hatch, and you don't know where Desmond is. If he died, like you said, Locke, Echo, Charlie, Claire. I don't know. You've got the people at the beach too.
Charlie was alive, but
yes, he came out, didn't he?
Yeah,
with Claire. Yeah, you found Claire. So
him and Claire kiss. So
that's right.
Charlie got his kiss. So take that, Locke.
Big thumbs up for Tale 2 Cities and me for Glass Ballerina.
I'm like this with Glass Ballerina.
I never got this cold in any Lost episode, but I was,
Tale 2 Cities was excellent.
There's like 122, 100 something episodes. I think Glass Ballerina would probably be top, at least top 60, maybe, surely.
Okay.
I'm trying to think because season 2 is my least favorite. So my least favorite episode is Fire Plus Water, the Charlie episode. So I'm trying to think if there would be 60 better, if I could think of 60 better episodes than a Glass Ballerina, and I might could.
Oh yeah, possibly. Like I said,
I've never lined up from best to worst, but
yeah,
that far.
I need to do that. It will take a while.
Yep.
Yes. You may have to do it by season first, and then be like, okay, now I have to mix these into one big 120.
I know people have done it, but I just because I'm like, I can't. I just because I would change my mind. Like I said, the Fire Plus Water is definitely probably my second least favorite episode. And I've said this a couple of times since I did the rewatch. It's because I love Charlie, and he's such a jerk in this one. You're making me You're making me hate Charlie. I don't want to hate Charlie. Stop doing that. I don't want to hate him, and I think that's why I hate the episode. But it could be because the episode's bad too. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for joining us, Caleb. Is your book still going strong and all that stuff? Do you want to?
Oh yeah, sure. My book is called Harnessing Darkness: Expressing Mental Illness Through Poetry, and you can find it on Amazon and other places like that. I offer a LGBT take on episodes and kind of from a mental health perspective too. That's kind of what I'm doing right now when I do podcasts and things like that, which is very interesting. And of course I love Lost. So, and you can find me pretty much anywhere online at Caleb is Lost. My handle's on here. So Instagram, Twitter, whatever. So thanks for always tuning in, and thanks for, always allowing me to come on. I'm always like, hey, I know you're here in your rewatch, and I know this Juliet episode is here, so can I do that one?
Well, it's funny when you sent me. I go tell Tuesday. I go, oh wait, that's the first one. So I keep track of which episode is which, but it's like, oh wait, yeah, I guess let's get that and we'll do that. And
yeah.
Bill, do you have anything?
I got nothing. I'm glad to be here.
Bill's awesome. Bill's cool.
Well, this is a great chat. It was a lot of different things to talk about. We again go back to where we were talking about. Did Mr. Lee kill himself? Was he pushed? Was he? I think it's a great debate. Just leave it in the comment section. Nothing to be afraid of. You really can't be wrong with it.
Nope.
It's one of those things. It's an opinion. So.
And I'd never, ever, ever heard that in my life. Never heard it. Never had a reason to even like think the other way. Always was like, he died by suicide. He jumped out. He was.
We ruined your day.
Shame. He felt shame. He, loved son, and he was clutching the pearls. He did it because he thought my life here is nothing. The most powerful man here knows about me, and they're going to kill me anyway. I just need to die.
That could make sense too. I mean, it just
never heard that. But I'm glad because that's just a different way to look at it. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I don't know about it. I feel like you have to believe that other people were in the room. And there's a lot of variables that you have to put your trust in to believe that it would get to that point, rather than him just being like, oh, this just happened. And in that moment of terror after being beat up, he just jumped out.
Well, conversations are what kept Lost Podcast alive forever. So
that's why.
I want to go listen to like the commentary on the episode and see if they mention anything about that. But that's really interesting though, because I mean, either way, there was a big debate after Juliet died, and it was like, whose fault is this? And it was basically everybody's fault. Like people convinced her to go. She went willingly. Ben brought her to the island. Richard got her there. Faraday was Faraday's plan. Jack enacted it. She went along with it. And if you think back on any death, kind of, son played a part in this one by, being with him. And so did Jen. I mean, basically beating him to a pulp and almost killing him.
And the
dad, of course,
pushed son, his actions with Jen pushed son away from Jen into the arms of Mr. Lee, which.
Yeah. And if you want us to watch a movie or see a show or whatever about that's similar to Lost, and an ongoing theme is your actions have consequences and there's repercussions for them, and they will reverberate into eternity. Whereas Lost was on a small scale, the movie Cloud Atlas and the book Cloud Atlas spans for like generations, like years. Like the fall of Earth, when Earth is like barely on the brink, all the way to like very early on. It spans like the 70s, the 2000s, way earlier, way later. But it also talks about like reincarnation. If you like Lost, the movie's really good. It's the movie's really good, but I had read the book first, and so I kind of had to explain to like my husband, like this meant this and this meant this. So it's one of those you have to pay attention to, but it's really mind bending, and it's really good in terms of that. So you should watch it.
Cool.
Right. I think it's on Netflix, but yeah,
I've written it down.
So anyway,
well, good job, guys.
Thanks,
conversation.
Yes, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the people who commented. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it took me. Mine was on a different tab, but then I found it and was like, "Yay!"
All right, you guys. All right. See you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.